Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Cavletics, an inside look into the athletics department here at Bossier Parish Community College. I'm your host, Charlie Cavell, and we've got a great show for you today. I know we're in the middle of football season, and who knows, maybe one day we'll be talking about Cavalier football, but that's a subject for a much future episode. Instead, we're going to be talking to one of my favorite people here on campus, and that's BIPSI head softball coach Amanda Nordberg Hamilton. Amanda, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Thank you for having me, Charlie. I appreciate it.
For those of you who may or may not be too familiar with BIPSI softball, well, I'm just going to say, with extreme bias, you're missing out. Coach Hamilton's Lady Cavaliers continue to be the premier program inside the BIPSI athletics department. Her softball teams have strung together 340 straight plus win seasons, a first in school history, 3 straight postseason appearances, a school record 44 wins, and a Region 14 regular season title in 2018, 2 All-Americans, numerous all-region and all-conference players. Quite an impressive resume for a coach, such a young coach as you, Amanda. What has been the key to your success with the BIPSI softball program?
I would have to say the intentional building of our culture the last 5 years and recruiting. I think that we've had a lot of success going out and finding the right athletes that fit our program, and then building a culture of success, championship mindset. So yes, it's been a good 5 years so far.
Expound a little bit, if you will, about that culture.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by building that culture?
We talk early and often of what it means to play softball, what BIPSI softball looks like, what we're all about, so day to day. And we've established that and instilled things starting from the first year that I got here. And those things have changed over time, but I think the foundation of that has stayed the same. Playing with grit, playing with tenacity, playing for our teammates, right? And we teach and we educate our athletes as they come through here what it means to be a great teammate, what it means to be a great student, how to manage their time as a student athlete. And I think it helps them here, but I think it also has allowed players that move on to the next level to be prepared and successful at that level as well.
With most great programs and great head coaches, there are those who contribute heavily to the program's success. And, well, Amanda, you have a prime example of that in your assistant coach, Kurt Williams. Tell us what Kurt has meant to you and to the BIPSI softball program. Absolutely.
Kurt's been invaluable to me and our program. He has pretty much, over the last few years, taken over recruiting. I've challenged him, and we've talked a lot about going out and finding the best athletes, physically, skill-wise, but also the best athletes that fit our program. And I think he's done a great job of that. So he's tasked with doing the research, making those contacts, making those connections, and he's just done a really, really good job. He also works with our outfields. Primarily, I've pretty much handed our outfield over to him, and he's done an amazing job of developing those players and just built a really good rapport and relationship with them. So.
Well, good segue to my next question,
yes.
Because let's talk a minute. We talked about culture. Let's talk a minute now about recruiting. You and Kurt have done an incredible job of recruiting, not just locally and statewide, but throughout the country and even internationally. If you will, take us through that process that now you say Kurt has taken over.
Absolutely. I think that our recruiting process has always evolved. Every year we've had to evolve and kind of change that. You graduate players like Elisa Favela and Chelsea Fagan. I don't know if you'll ever get players that lead the country with 38 home runs like Chelsea did, but we're always striving to find those players that are a little bit better or can take us a little bit further. And I think we've been able to do that. And the changes that we've made the last few years is going after players that have been in those big moments, that have played for state titles, that have won state championships, that play at a high level on the travel ball circuit. And we've seen a transition in their preparedness once they get here. And so when we ask them to play on a big stage at a high level, on a national level for Division I junior college, I think they've been able to step up to that challenge because they come in with that experience. teammates. We also take a lot of pride in bringing those players on campus and making sure that it's a right fit for our culture, for us, and for them. And so we allow our current players to be a big part of that process and getting to know them, because those are potentially their teammates in the future. And so I think the mindset of those freshmen coming in is, or the returners, is these players are my teammates, not the players trying to take my spot. So we've had a lot of success with that.
I know in other sports, in particular, let's say men's basketball as an example, that when Chris Lovell recruits players, it's usually with a one-and-done type of process or situation. That's not to say that men's basketball doesn't have players who will come in for 2 years and be Cavaliers for the first half of their career. But many of their players are coming in from four-year schools. They have a lot of transfers in, and that's not just BIPSI. That's pretty much everybody in Region 14 and everybody that competes at a national level, because they're going after that Division I or four-year school caliber of player. Coming here with the thoughts, that if I perform well, I can get back to that four-year school. How is that different for you and for softball?
Absolutely. I think junior college softball or sports in general for our region are very different sport to sport. I've seen that. I think our approach is the culture aspect of it, and I feel like for us we have to take that transition period. I call it the freshman freak out. So they need that 1 year to really adapt, and I think our culture has been able to have a good foundation and sustain stability with that, because you have players that have returned from last year that know what to expect. They've gotten through that freshman freak out. And that's not to say that we don't go out and recruit those transfer players. It's also, I think, a little more difficult in the softball arena. I think in female sports as well, females are a little more comfort athletes compared to males. Males are more likely to take that risk. They'll go here for 1 year, there for another year. And my experience, the female athletes, especially in softball, want to kind of know, okay, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be able to establish myself, and then I think they choose us because we've done a really good job of placing kids at the next level.
I know, from some of your past players, speaking with their parents, especially those young ladies that have come up from South Louisiana, where I'm from, have said they come on campus and they see our beautiful campus and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this existed up here. We've heard about BIPSI, but we didn't know that it was a true collegiate feel and to a campus, because a lot of times you go to junior colleges and it's not what we enjoy and have here.
Right.
What, as far as some of your selling points to recruits about not just your program, but for the college in general? Absolutely.
I think our first selling point is always emphasizing the education that they're going to receive here. I believe 100% that BIPSI not only provides a great education for all of our students and our athletes, but I also see that it has prepared our student athletes for the education that they're going to get out of four-year university. So that's first and foremost. I think just providing them and inviting them into our culture to see what we're about. And then once we make that initial sell and make them feel comfortable with Coach Kurt and I, with our staff, we bring them on campus, and the campus sells itself. It's done that from day one. I believed in it. That's why I took this job, because I knew what the campus had to offer, what our facilities had to offer compared to our region. So a lot of what we do when we go out is we educate. We educate families and athletes of what BIPSI provides, and then what the junior college level in general, what the opportunity is there, because I think a lot of people don't always know, and so we do more educating than recruiting, and then once we get them there, they love it. They fall in love with it. So
you've been really successful in sending players to the next level. Tell us about some of your former players. You mentioned Issa and Chelsea, where they are now, and how they're doing.
Absolutely. We have done a really good job, I believe, in providing opportunities. So we're at a 100% offer rate, which means over the last 4 years, every sophomore that has completed their sophomore year with us has had opportunities to move on, and we pride ourselves in that. I feel as a junior college coach, it's my job to help those athletes that do what they're supposed to do in the classroom and on the field to get those opportunities. And so we're just really proud of all of our alumni. In particular, Morgan Bullock's the senior at Texas A&M Texarkana. Chelsea and Issa are both seniors at SAU. Tyler Robinson's a senior at Grambling. Sharika Bryant is actually on track to graduate a semester early and will graduate in December from SAU. And then our class last year, all but one, and even the one had multiple offers to move on. Brittany Broussard is at Centenary College this year. Emily Hardy's at Louisiana College. Faith and Dory are at Texas A&M Texarkana, and Stacy Landry went all the way up to Goshen and is absolutely loving it. I get videos of black squirrels on a weekly basis, so she's having a great time. And I think the key to all of that is everybody went in their own direction, but everyone's where they're supposed to be, and they were happy with their decision and they're comfortable where they're at. So
she's going to have a hard time skateboarding
very much so,
when it
yes.
starts snowing.
Yes.
We're talking about Stacy Landry, who skateboarded
everywhere. Yeah. So the best part is to watch how comfortable they are and how excited they are about the next chapter. And then we just got to be a small part of that along their journey. So
we're going to take a brief time out, but stay tuned because following the break, we'll continue our discussion of BIPSI softball with head coach Amanda Nordberg Hamilton. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You've seen how recent hurricanes have devastated whole communities, flooding and destroying homes. Join Habitat for Humanity as we work with families to repair and rebuild. You can help someone desperately in need of a place to call home. We will rebuild, but only with your help. Visit Habitat.org to support Habitat's work.
Most Americans think cancer will be curable within the next 25 years. What they may not know is that the risk for certain cancers can be reduced today. Worldwide vaccination against the human papillomavirus, HPV, can greatly reduce the incidence of several cancers, especially cervical cancer and oropharyngeal cancer. To that end, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says all boys and girls should be vaccinated around age 11 or 12. Unfortunately, only about 36% of girls and 14% of boys have been protected so far. To reduce the spread of HPV, the American Society of Clinical Oncology recommends 3 things: increased education for healthcare professionals, health policymakers, and parents, better access to routine HPV vaccinations, and research on the most effective ways to raise vaccination rates. To learn more about preventing cancer with HPV vaccinations, visit cancer.net/HPV.
Welcome back to Cavletics. Today we are visiting with Bipsy head softball coach Amanda Nordberg Hamilton. And before the break, we were discussing recruiting and some of Coach Hamilton's former players. We're now going to talk about the 2019-2020 Lady Cavaliers. Boy, that's hard to say, you know. But if my math is correct, Amanda, you have only 6 returning players from last year's team, which won 42 games. How are you able to maintain such a high level of success with such a high turnover rate?
That's definitely the challenge every year. I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast at the junior college level. And I would credit that to the culture that we've been able to sustain. And I know that I talk about that a lot, but I think that to me is just a big piece of why we're able to find success year after year. And then I think it's developing leaders as freshmen to come back and return as sophomores. And they've been there and they have that experience and they know what it takes. And then just really understanding at our level the pieces and how to prepare our athletes. Like, we've been in it, we know what to expect. We know that we're going to be up against great competition every game in Region 14. And so just really trying to prepare our players for what they're going to see and what they're going to face. We utilize the fall schedule for that. We try to set up our non-conference schedule for that. And then just really focusing on developing the concept of playing Bipsy softball and focusing on how to get to that. And if we're playing Bipsy softball, regardless of our opponent, that we can find success.
Last fall, you had about 30 players in fall camp. This year, it's down to about 17 new players. Was that by design, and if so, why?
Yes, very much so. We went into last fall and had 30 girls. That was a first for Kurt and I, and I think it was a program first. And we got a lot of good out of that. I think that our freshmen coming in were very challenged. It was competitive every single day. Every practice was competition. But I think as the season went, that challenge wasn't able to be sustainable. And so going into this year, I felt like rather than recruiting depth, we recruited, and we're a little more intentional with who we brought in and making sure that those athletes were a little more well-rounded. And I think in those 30 you had the pieces, but fewer athletes that were kind of the whole package. And so that's what we went out and did in this group. And I think, Kurt, we talked about that, and he did a great job of that. And then our program, I think, just selling those kids that we wanted. So we went a little bit harder after certain kids, and we were able to bring them in. So we've had a good fall so far with the group that we have.
So you have 23 new players essentially competing for 9 spots. Take us through your evaluation process and how eventually, when it starts in the spring, how you will settle on your starting 8 and then, of course, pitcher.
Absolutely. I think that we're going to have that conversation again in January, because right now I have no idea. We're 8 weeks in. We have so much versatility this year. Every one of my catchers can play a position. My pitchers are multi-positional. Our infield, we just have so many dynamics, tons of kids that can hit, tons of kids that can run. So all I can tell you on deciding on that top 9 is you'll know when I know, because I have no idea right now, which is a good problem to have. So that is probably the biggest worry that I have, is trying to figure that out. But in my experience, we always end up figuring it out when we need to. So we've got so many kids that can play multiple positions. For me this year, it's just really trying to find not necessarily the top 9, but who can play the best with each other on the field, and what lineup we can come up with to produce the most runs.
Whether you're talking baseball or softball, for me, success always starts with pitching and defense. Down the stretch last season, you lost a couple of pitchers, and that became a big area of concern. Gone from your staff are Jenna Jameson and Dory Cormier, 2 ladies who logged the bulk of the innings in the circle last year for you. However, now you have to have an entirely new staff. Tell us about the crop of new pitchers that you have.
Absolutely. I think just touching on Dory and Jenna, they did a tremendous job for us. And more so than what they were able to provide in the circle, throwing a ton of games, especially towards the end of the season, was their leadership. They had a very young freshman defense behind them, a freshman offense supporting them, and their leadership never wavered. And I think that we got as far as we did, and we did as well as we did the second half of season last year because of those two. So we're extremely grateful to them. And then looking forward to this year, we're completely new. Ashley Hunter is a redshirt freshman, so she brings that experience in practice, but does not have that experience in games. We have a transfer sophomore that got some really good experience at a Division II last year, and then everyone else is freshmen. I think the exciting part about that is when you bring in new athletes and new pitchers, they don't know who's good and who's bad. They don't know who we're supposed to beat, so that innocence is sometimes a benefit. And I think our pitchers this year are just competitive. They step up to the challenge. We've been doing a lot of situational scrimmages, so throwing them into situations, 3-2 count, bases loaded, 2 outs, getting ourselves out of those positions. So we're trying to mentally get them that experience now. But they're just fierce competitors. They want the ball. All 6 of them want to be pitching. They want to be in the circle. But they're also selfless and understanding that it is a staff, and that's how we run our pitchers here is to run a staff.
When it comes to defense, you have your entire outfield returning in Rebecca Shepard, Haley Pence, and Haley Eby, as well as you have some players like Leanna Cooper and Uchenna Zhongloy who saw time at the corner infield spots. But in my opinion, it all begins and ends with shortstop Ruby Butler. Tell us everything you can about Ruby. I mean, she means so much to this team and this program.
Ruby's a next level kid. I think that in a coach's career, you always have those players that are season changing players. And I think Ruby is a program changer. She's a kid that has the potential, especially this year, to take us to that next step and that next level. And the coolest part for me as a coach is sitting back and watching her really just observe and take in how to be a leader as a freshman last year. I mean, she naturally led as our starting shortstop as a freshman, but really just understanding and learning the dynamics and just how to get the best out of and the most out of her teammates. And so stepping into this year as a sophomore, I've seen her just take everything that she learned last year and really just apply that, and she's earned the respect of her peers and her teammates, and she's a special kid. So I'm very excited. I think she has a really bright future ahead of her.
One position that I know that you're really concerned about is catcher. Not only does the catcher have to handle the pitching staff, a young pitching staff now, but they have to be the leader of the defense. You have 4 players on the roster who are listed as catchers. Tell us about those 4 players and how that battle is going this fall.
Absolutely. We've got 4 girls that are listed as catchers from all over the country. We have one from Utah, one from Texas, from Hawaii, actually 2 from Hawaii. And I think what they bring to the table this year and to our pitching staff is that they are fierce competitors. They understand the game, and they're not afraid to challenge our pitchers. They will tell them, nope, that didn't work, or yes, we need to throw that again. So they're encouraging, but they're challenging. They're not afraid to kind of push them forward, and you need that with the young staff. They're very honest with me. If something doesn't work, they'll let me know, and they'll let the pitcher know. So it's going to be a challenge to determine who is going to be the best fit back there, physically, skill-wise, offensively. We could go with any of them. There's not one kid in our catching rotation that I don't have 100% confidence in, which is another good problem to have. Exactly. So we somehow put ourselves in this predicament of just having a lot of good talent. But the best part about that is they're versatile. Haley Ladner is looking to play some first base for us. Thule could play middle ends easily. Dylan's gotten some time already at second. And Primrose we can put anywhere as well. So just all around, really good athletes. Really good athletes. So
last weekend, the Lady Cavaliers saw their first action of the fall, sweeping through the Bipsy Fall Round Robin Tournament with a 6-0 record. Besides winning every game, the thing that I found most impressive, Amanda, is that your team posted 3 shutouts and allowed a grand total of just 7 runs in 6 games. give us your thoughts on your team's first action.
I think for the 8 weeks that we've put in and the heat and the sweat, I was so proud of our outing this last weekend. This is our 5th year and our 5th year doing that event. And
I don't mean to cut you off, but
absolutely.
tell us about the event because it is a special deal.
Yes, it is. So this year we celebrated the 5th annual Danielle Jones Memorial Round Robin. It is designed and was created by former coach Ashley Grisham to recognize a former softball player, Danielle Jones, that passed away in an accident. And so it's just our small way to recognize her contribution to our program. And I did not get to personally meet her, which is, I hate that. But her family comes every year. Her dad comes, and he's such a nice gentleman, such a nice guy, Mr. Bryan. And he shows up and he supports us and he supports his daughter. And so we do a moment of silence for her. And I think it's very eye-opening, for the athletes that are on the field at that time. And it just reminds us that life is too short. She passed too early, but she was a light. And I think that she had a big impact, from my understanding, on our program. So.
And the team's performance?
It was fantastic. Yeah. So back to that, I was just super pleased with it. I saw a lot of sparks of great team chemistry on and off the field, a lot of support for one another, a lot of the small things that we've been trying to teach and implement just really come to light. And then just our competitiveness. We got to play a really good Grambling team. They have a new coach there, and she's turning things around. Had some success against them, and saw that we were able to adjust to a lot of different caliber of pitching, which is really exciting as well. So a lot of runs produced, a lot of good things in the circle, and then just the team chemistry and team camaraderie in between games was really good to see as well.
The Lady Cavaliers will return to fall action tomorrow when they travel up to Magnolia, Arkansas to take on the Southern Arkansas Mule Riders, as well as some of the aforementioned former Lady Cavaliers in a doubleheader. If you'd like to get a sneak peek at Coach Hamilton and her Lady Cavaliers, check out the website, bpcathletics.com. That's bpcathletics.com to see where and when they will be playing the remainder of the fall. Amanda, thank you for joining us today, and we wish you and your team all the best of luck the rest of this fall and especially next spring. And we look forward to visiting with you again next season. And big thank you to you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today for this episode of Cavletics. Join us again each and every Friday throughout the fall semester as we bring you the latest on Bossier Parish Community College athletics. I'm Charlie Cavell, bidding you a good sports day.